that's kind of like how it started for me. Then Nomad, Orbit Key, and all these other brands. All I had to do was take photos.
All right, so we're live. I am here with my friend Lloyd Carig. Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, cool. So Lloyd is a photographer, videographer, creator based out of Vancouver, Canada. I've been following him on Instagram for quite a while now, and I've watched him grow over the last year. And funny story, I actually got to meet Lloyd in person. Because I was selling camera gear on Craigslist and he showed up. And then after he left, I loaded up Instagram and I was like, wait, that's that guy I was just talking to. Yeah, the fluid head. Yeah.
Got it.
So I've kept in touch with Lloyd and I've been wanting to interview him for a little while now. So for some context, Lloyd is in the transition phase of like going from like kind of like a corporate job into being a creator. I remember what that transition was like, so I wanted to kind of talk to him while it's happening. Right now, I believe, Lloyd, correct me if I'm wrong, you have about 15.6 thousand followers on Instagram. Is that correct?
15K. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it's like point something, but yeah, I'm over 15K right now.
Okay, cool. And how long have you been plugging away at the Instagram? Like, how long have you been growing that?
Ah, that's a good question. Like if you check Instagram, you're gonna see that I think my account has been active since 2009. So funny thing is like this account was like a personal account that started, and it's just like mostly snapshots, family, random things, and then it just kind of like grew from there. I created other accounts to kind of like to focus on the stuff that I wanted, but then I ended up just like ditching it and just kind of like consolidating everything into this account. So to answer that question, I don't really know when it started, right? Like the growth that is. And I don't get viral like others do. I know a bunch of people, other creators that they post like couple reels, goes viral, and now they're all on the 100K following. Happy for them, but I haven't had any reel that did that way. So yeah.
Okay. So you've been running the Instagram for a while, and I mean, pretty similar. Like if you were to look at my Instagram, I've had it for as long as I can remember,
Yeah.
basically. So okay, that's good to know. So the goal of me talking to you today, the reason that I wanted to interview you, is right now you're at 15.6K. You make incredible visual content, very aesthetic content for a bunch of brands that I follow and use. You get a lot of engagement, and I'm curious what your kind of systems and processes are like, and what you've kind of developed to get to this point to where you are now. I also want to learn a little bit about your background and about like where you want to take this. But being a creator or a creative is kind of like it's a career field that's kind of in flux right now. There's not really like a good way to describe it. And usually you hear from people that are like, I got like a million followers. You don't get to talk to them in the early stages, and you definitely are growing quickly. So I want to talk to you now and figure out the frameworks that got you here. So to kick this off, I guess just give me a bit of background on one, like kind of your history, your background, and how you kind of stumbled into this Instagram thing, like working with brands that you admire. Like what did that look like?
Okay. It's gonna be like it's kind of like a long story. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what happened. So I was a huge sneaker collector. Like I had a bunch of sneakers, and around 2015, 2016, I kind of like wanted to kind of like showcase my sneaker collection on Instagram, same way as how the people I follow do it, right? So I was kind of like, okay, I need to invest in a camera. I don't know nothing about photography. I just went out, bought a camera. I think it was an Olympus OMD EM1, EM10,
Okay.
something like that. Micro Four Thirds. So I played with that, took photos of my sneakers, and put it up on Instagram. Even created a different account to kind of like separate my personal account to the sneaker account. And long story short, the sneaker account has gotten some traction. I know a lot of people in the sneaker community here in Vancouver too. So if there's like any events by Foot Locker, NBA Canada, I was getting invited as well, which is dope. And then fast forward to 2019, like kind of like 2019 going to 2020. I got so busy. I had two kids. I just didn't have time to kind of like focus on the sneaker collection, competing with other kids, high schoolers that had so much time lining up, doing raffles and all that. And working from home, kind of like 2020, COVID happened. People started working from home. In my case, I started working from home before COVID happened, kind of like a couple of months before COVID happened. And when that happened, like all my sneakers were just like sitting in the closet. Like the only time I go out, quick errands, superstore, and all that, like I just grab some Vans, call it a day, right? I don't have to flex those expensive sneakers anymore. So I sold them, kind of like the entire collection, and just kept a couple pairs, and then I used the money to kind of like, because at that time I was already enjoying photography, and outside of the sneaker thing, I was already like going around Vancouver taking photos of the cityscape, like Vancouver views. Like if you scroll down on my feed further, you're gonna see some of those photos,
Okay.
and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed taking photos, the process, like waking up early, staying up late, and then when I sold all my sneakers, I used the money to kind of like invest more into photography, buying better gear, lenses, and then I just kept taking photos. And 2020, COVID, desk setup, that happened, home office. And then I was looking at IG, Pinterest. I saw some inspiration, kind of like, get some inspo there. Started incorporating my style. And then I still just like taking photos. So one time I was up at Cypress Lookout. I was just like taking photos of Vancouver. I had I don't know, can you see the Wander backpack here?
Yeah.
So I had this backpack in my car, took photo of it, posted it on Instagram. Kind of like I was saying like something about like switching from peak design to Wandered, and that I'm not like regretting anything. And then a lot of people were commenting, like they were asking like, what made you switch? What did you like about this bag? So I was answering everyone, and then Wandered kind of like DM'd me, and then they were like, "Hey, like we like what you're doing with the comment section, blah blah. We kind of like want to send you a bag if you want to do a giveaway." And I was like, that was the first time that a well-known brand came out to me. So I was like, "Is this uh, like a fraud account or something?" But no, it was their IG page. So I was like, "Sure, why not?" And so did a giveaway, gave the bag to someone, and that's kind of like how other brands started noticing me because I had to kind of like work with them. And then desk setup comes in because like that was like in the same time frame. I was just like looking at stuff. I bought with my own money. I bought a Grove made desk mat. It's kind of like the medium sized ones. It was expensive. Plus you have to pay tax like to get it here,
Yeah.
like Judy's.
I got
So
one as well. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I like it. I didn't want to settle for like the cheaper ones. So I was like, if I want this, I might as well spend the money. So spend the money, put it on my desk, took photos of it, tagged Grove Made. They noticed it, they liked it. They they DM'd me. They're like, "Hey, we want to send you more, blah blah." Okay, and then that's kind of like how it started. Like this big brands. I mean, at that time, Grove Made was kind of like the standard. Like I think even now, they're so premium that if you get to work with them, you're kind of like, in a certain group.
Yeah.
And that happened when I was just like a very, very small account.
How many
So
followers did you have when this stuff started happening? Do you remember?
I'm pretty sure I was like sub 1K when that
Yeah.
happened. Because kind of like 1K was the milestone for me. Because like that sub 1K following or followers that I had was mostly like family and friends, right? Like that they follow me, of course. And then it just like grew from there. And then obviously 2020, 21, 22, that's like the boom, like the golden era of dev setups.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how it started for me. Then Nomad, OrbitKey, and all these other brands. Um, I would kind of like want to shout out. I'm not sure if you know him. He's another creator, Michael Soldad. Kind of
Yes.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
so I've been following him, and he also has a podcast, and then he was like if you go back to his older episodes, he's mostly talking about like getting paid work instead of like doing product exchanges. And at that time, I was like all product exchange because for me, all I had to do was take photos.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. But now you're gonna give me like something that I like, take photos of it, and not pay anything. I was good with that. Like I'm totally fine with that. And he was like Michael, he was like, that's not enough. Like they're gonna be using your photos and all that for marketing purposes and all that, blah blah. So I kind of like understood it, and then I forgot like other brands kind of like reached out to me, and then I was like, okay, let me give this a try. Like, hey, I'll give you the contents that you need, but I charge a certain fee for this, and they're like, sure, how much? And then I was like, okay, and I didn't even know how much to charge them, so I was just like, uh, 300 Canadian, and they're like, done. I was like, okay, and then I was just like, kind of like start. So at that time, I was kind of like gauging myself, comparing myself to others, like how much. Obviously, I don't, I haven't asked anyone how much they charge because it's kind of like, I think it's personal, right? But we had this small group chat with other creators in LA. Well, they're mostly from California, like Filipino creators, like Renz Sadiwa, like Michael and Liz Lovestack.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever like a brand kind of like reaches out, I can kind of like ask them like, does this brand pay, or they just like mainly product exchange? Kind of like we're kind of like brainstorming and all that, so that kind of helps too. And those three people, they're doing pretty good right now. I think all of them are like more than 100K, but they kind of like laid the groundwork for me. Like they kind of like the ones that told me you can charge, like you can start charging, and that's where I'm at now. Like I still don't charge everyone, right? But I try to because I kind of like know my value now,
Okay.
especially in this time. Like most brands would want to have like a reel and a photo. If it's a photo, I'm cool with it. Like I can take a photo right now, like grab my
Yeah.
camera here, take a photo, slap a preset on, I'm done, right? But then they're gonna have like, can you give us two reels and all that, and then product exchange? Like, come on, man. Like I can't do all that. So that's kind of like how it started for me. I never focused on the numbers. Like right now, 15K. Because for me, I just enjoy it. I just enjoy the process. Like I started from like taking photos of my sneakers, and now I'm getting paid to take photos of like cell phone cases, right?
That's
Like,
awesome.
yeah, that's kind of like the long story of it, but and that's kind of like how it grew too. It just kept posting, built good relationships with other brands, and oh, I made sure that I over deliver. So most of them will be like, we need like 3 to 5 photos. I gave them 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most like,
I'm the same way. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't miss that like every single time. You tell me you need 2 photos, I give you 4. So that's kind of like how I built these relationships. Obviously, not every brand I worked with was like smooth sailing, but I would say 95% are pretty good.
Okay, so there's a couple things there that I want to touch on because the first one is how you mentioned that you weren't really chasing the numbers. Like a lot of people get into this and they're like, I want to have 10,000 followers. I want to have 100,000 followers, but they're going into it with like the end result in mind, whereas you went into it with I enjoy doing this, so I'm going to do this anyways. And then from that, the brands caught wind of you and saw your style, saw what you were capable of, and they reached out to you. You got their attention without having to like go to them, which is really cool. That's a testament to your skills. There's a creator named Katie Steckley who talks about this. Like, she's like, follow your curiosity, follow what you are actually curious about. It was pretty similar for me. Like I've always kind of liked photography. I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I kept taking photos. And then now I have a company that spans across North America that takes dating profile photos. I didn't wake up one day thinking like, I'm going to start a company around dating profile photos. I was just taking photos, and I had to take a photo of our lawyer for a company blog post. He went and used those photos on Tinder that night, came in the next day, and he's like, I've never had that many matches in my life before. That's crazy. So a part of it is like just putting stuff out there and then seeing what comes back. Because often what comes back, like you wouldn't have guessed. I would have never guessed that would be the thing that I end up doing. Just like I'm sure you wouldn't have guessed that Wandered would have reached out. But you follow your curiosity, follow your passion, and then the right things kind of fall into place. So that's awesome. Okay, so I want to talk quickly about results. So I know you're at 15 something thousand Instagram followers right now. Tell me a little bit about the financial side. So I imagine that at this point, it's not, from what I know about brand deals, it's not like potentially lucrative or stable enough for this to be like a full-time thing. But from what I understand, you are in that transition. So tell me a little bit about the financial side of someone at your size, 15K. What does that look like right now for you?
It honestly depends on the brands that I'm working with. I don't want to name the brands, but there's a couple of brands that had paid me more than 3K for like a certain campaign, and that 3K kind of like includes photos and reel, and these are like the bigger brands, right? The smaller brands, these are kind of like the Amazon brands, like the brands that sell on Amazon. They reach out. As much as I want to charge them like the same rate I charge the bigger brands, if I want to get paid, I kind of like have to go down to their level too, right? So it's either I go down to their level or just like product exchange or nothing at all. So I cannot expect every brand to pay the same amount. Like if that happens, that would be amazing because they're basically paying me like what my skills are, right? Like for example, if a wedding photographer charges like $10,000 like for a whole day, that's gonna be $10,000 regardless of who is getting married, right?
Right.
Like in my case, I could do that, but then I figured I might as well adjust to these brands depending on their budget so that I still get paid, right? Like again, I told you earlier, like I enjoy taking photos. Like product
Yeah.
exchange, I enjoy that. I get like something that I like for free, give you photos, that's it, call it a day. But now they're paying me, so I don't want to be greedy and kind of like charging a premium. So overall, if you add it up, like it's a good amount. And then I also have brands that I work with. We're kind of like on a 6 week deal. Like 6 weeks, I have to kind of like post the content, like, and it's kind of like usually every other week. But like the length is like 6 weeks, and then I get paid certain amount After the
Okay.
6 weeks, we talk again. We kind of like continue another 6 weeks and all that. So this brands they kind of like have a retainer, which is good because I know that like I have money coming in, right?
Yeah.
Um, but now I also reach out to other brands. Like before they were reaching out, but I learned how to reach out to brands. But when I reach out, I don't expect to get paid because obviously, like I mean, the people like does an amazing job. They kind of like reach out to brands, tell them what they can do, and still charge them. I can't do that. Like I don't know how to say that. Like, hey Justin, I like your microphone there. Like, can you give it to me? I'll post a reel about it and pay me. Like, I can't put it into words. So overall, I guess it's more about like my expectations about myself, like not
Yeah.
being greedy too. Because again, smaller brands, I understand. Like we all gotta start somewhere. But like if I'm gonna work with you, you still gotta have to give me something. Like I don't want to do it for free anymore, right? But yeah, I think it doesn't. It's not about the 15K that I had, like on IG, the following, because there's people that have less following than me that are like so good, right? Like,
Hmm.
and these brands too, they kind of like they don't really look at the following. They look at their engagement, like how many people comment and all that. Like the likes, not really, right? So
Interesting.
that kind of helps too. But yeah, like I don't give a big deal about the 15K that I have now, because it's a number for me. Like if I have like 1.5K, I would be still producing like the same kind of content. It's just that I'm not getting out there because I don't, people don't see me, right? But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple things there that I want to touch on. So the first one, what you said about like I'm a great like I'm a photographer. I'm going to be taking these anyways. These are things that I like. These are things that I'm
Hmm.
already buying. So there's there's this, like this stage that I think that most creatives go through. I went through the same thing. Most of my friends went through the same thing, where you're doing it out of passion, and then someone asks you to do it for them, and the first time you're like, oh, you like what I do? Oh, okay, yeah, like I'll just do it because like I'm gonna do it anyways. Um, and then they're like, okay, cool. How much do we pay you? And then you're like, oh my god, you're gonna pay me to do what I'm already doing in my spare time? Like it feels like you unlocked like a cheat code. You're like, wow, I get to pay to do
Hmm.
something I really really enjoy. And then what happens over time is like your comfort level with getting paid goes up. And then when you start telling other creatives, like, hey, I got paid for this, like you mentioned that you have a group chat and they talk about, you guys talk about rates or talk about like different things like that. Then you start to open your eyes up to be like, oh, wait, there's people making like a real living from this stuff and they still get to get paid to do what they love. Um, and I would argue that, the way that you did it, I think is great. Um, Starting to charge more and, still tailoring it to lower brands, I think right now is great. But there is, as you know, there's a lot of people out there who do this full time. They work with the brands. The brands love the relationship. They get paid well. And I think that's kind of like crazy for a lot of people to imagine that that is like a way that you can actually live and make money as a creative. Um, and yeah, that kind of transition into that is a little awkward. I find it's a little weird. Would you say that that's kind of like accurate? Like you're still trying to kind of find your footing there with like what makes sense and like how to do that?
Yeah, because like I know a couple of people that are doing it full time, and I kind of like I knew them before they even went full time. So watching their transition, I'm kind of like just in the background seeing how it goes, and right now it's going well for them. Because eventually that's what I want to do. I kind of like want to transition to this full time because there's nothing better, like getting paid at doing something that you want, right? Like you're like an athlete or something, right? But um, looking at them, and I'm happy too that I can reach out to these people like anytime I want, kind of like get pointers and all that. But from what they've told me, it's mostly just like having like one, two, or three brands that kind of like have you on retainer. So in that way, you have like some sort of um, consistent income coming in, kind of like, a paycheck coming in
Yeah.
that you don't have to worry about until after the retainer is done, right? But
Yeah.
having that with like, I'd say even two brands, because right now I have that sort of thing, that 6 week thing. It does help too, like that, knowing that every 6 weeks I get this money from this company, right? But then that doesn't limit you to kind of like doing this those one-offs with other brands. So it all adds up. But yeah, I mean it's a weird fun time to kind of like, because I haven't really like imagined myself doing this. Like, right now I'm contemplating of doing this full time. I have family, two kids, mortgage to pay, cars to pay, and then I'm thinking about like doing this Instagram, social media, YouTube thing full time, right? It's funny how you listen to that.
It's a weird thing, right? Like, because I remember when I went through this transition. So I had a job in tech for the longest time, and like it was okay. It was fine. And then when I was kind of going through this transition myself to full time, it's almost like I had to do some mental gymnastics, because it's like I'm going to leave something that is for sure I know I can get paid through my job, and I'm going to do something that is kind of weird, that is kind of new, that I don't really know what's there, but I know other people are doing it, and I know it could be
Yeah.
lucrative. But more importantly, I know that I could have the freedom in my life to do the things I really want to do. And for me, that was like enough to kind of make that switch. When I first made the transition, there were some months where I was making enough from my like side hustle that it was like it was about the same amount or a little bit more than what I was making in my day job, but it wasn't consistent. So it sounds like it was very similar. Are there months where like right now, some months you get paid more from your little side hustle than like you do in the day job?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when I get these bigger brands to kind of like work with me when they have these campaigns. Like that for sure, right away is gonna be like bigger paycheck than my day job. But again, as you said, it's not consistent. Like you get down months, right? So right now, what I'm trying to figure out is like like where can I get like passive income, right? Like yeah, I get like brand deals in exchange for my service, but I'm looking at other people. Like YouTube is one thing, because like once you have like bigger number there, like older videos still gets watched, you get paid every month.
Yeah.
um I think digital content is one thing too. I'm trying to look into like presets, like selling presets and all that, because that's another way of getting like side income outside if you don't have any brands working with you.
Yeah.
That way can kind of like compensate for the down months that you have, right?
Yeah.
But I think good thing that my wife is very supportive. Like we're talking about this, and I told her that like not every month is gonna be like a good month. Like not every month is gonna be like the same. I'm gonna be making the same amount of money like I'm making with my day job. Like there's gonna be months I'm making less, months I'll be making more. But I think it's just like at the start, like once, I mean you've done this, right? Like once you go over that hump, you like the blueprint. I think it'll just be like better from there.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm not even like doing it full time. We're just kind of like my wife and I are talking about it. Like I'm setting her expectations. Like once I quit and all that, right? I think what I'm gonna miss is the um, the company benefits, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you get like paid time off. Obviously, I don't need that anymore. But you were mentioning earlier about freedom. I think that's the most overlooked part. Like
Yeah.
getting paid doing what you want to do is fun, but like the freedom of kind of like doing whatever you want to do, like running errands, all that, like be with my kids whenever they need me. I think that's kind of like one of the goals too. My
Yeah.
wife, like she works her office in Burnaby. She's kind of like flexible too, but then the fact that she's in Burnaby and I'm here in Langley, and me like working from home, but if I'm like doing this creative thing full time, I have the freedom to kind of like be with my kids, pick them up, drop them off, whatever.
It's a great
That's
perk.
that's one thing that I'm like looking forward to,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah, I'm ready for this.
Cool, man. So there's a couple things I wanted to touch on. So the flow of the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys, that is something that is true and exists for every type of creative, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you are a video producer. Like I had a video production company, and it was the exact same thing. Like some months were good, some months were bad. So I think setting that expectation with your partner and with your family that it isn't a consistent thing is very, very smart. I had to do the same thing with my partner as well. And it's something that you have to kind of prepare yourself for mentally, because when things are good, you're like, I'm on top of the world. And then when things are slow, you're like, oh my
Right.
God, I might never eat again. The other thing I wanted to touch on there is, so you're mentioning getting other revenue streams in place so that when the slow months are kind of slow, you still have something there to supplement your income.
Hmm.
You mentioned like having like a back catalog of YouTube videos. So to touch on that point, I have a friend who's a YouTuber, and I think he's at above 200 or 300,000 followers now, and we talked for the last 2 years around tax time, and one little kind of nugget that he gave me was that um, this year he made about the same, if not more, as he did last year. But this year he produced less videos because his back catalog is
Hmm.
now doing the work for him. So once you have enough there, then you don't have to keep making videos every single day or every week. Like Casey Neistat doesn't make videos
Yeah.
every day like he used to. Uh, Peter McKinnon or Maddie Hipoya, they make videos sporadically to kind of keep things going, but it's no
Hmm.
longer a hustle. The other things that you mentioned were like digital content and presets. There's other things like affiliates. So the thing that I wanted to touch on there is I know a lot of people know roughly what this stuff is or like how it works, but I kind of wanted to break down my experience with it
Yeah.
because I have what I would say is like a fairly small following. I think on Instagram it's like 17 or 1800. I don't have anything on YouTube or like really anywhere else. And this year I launched digital products. So I have a course that talks about how to do SEO for video businesses. And then I have a template for video business owners as well. I'll kind of be candid and say like between those two things, they've made roughly a little over $35,000 this year. And I do not have like, I don't have an audience. I don't have a big audience. And these were things that I built because I needed them for my business. And then, I made them available for other people. And I do believe that they are truly valuable. But they are things that I almost did not do because I assumed it wasn't worth my time because I don't have an audience. And now that I'm so glad that I did that, because now I understand like, wait, if you do those things early on and then they are there as you grow, then you can benefit from that supplemental income as you go. And I think so many people should do this, even if they're not a creator, even if they're not, even if they don't have any kind of following. If there's something that you've learned and you've kind of systemized and you use this in your day to day, make that available for other people to use, and they will gladly pay money for it and it will provide value. It's a win-win situation. The other thing that I personally have started doing this year is I went through all the tools that I use: Squarespace, Notion, Webflow, Senja, like all the tools that I actually use in my business. And I just signed up for their affiliate programs. I thought for sure there was no way that anyone was going to approve me because I don't have a following or anything, but I got approved for every single one of them. And now I just like, I put those links places. I put them on my website and blog posts, emails, etc. And people buy stuff through them, and it results in like an extra. Right now, it's like an extra couple $100 a month in income, but it's like
It's
I would
passive.
have. Yeah, I would have been referring these things anyways. I was referring them for years anyways. I was like, oh, I use Webflow, I use Squarespace. The only difference now is that I've signed up for their affiliate program and now I get a kickback from it. So this is something that I think a lot of people maybe don't understand how that works, or don't understand that that is accessible to most people. Like you can sign up for any app that you like or anything. You are a part of affiliate programs, right? Like
Yeah, I have like I have like exclusive one for the brands I work with,
yeah.
and I have one for Amazon, like the
Okay.
storefront.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the Amazon one is a fun one because like you can see what people are buying from your link. It's funny like when you check it out. But yeah, like they don't pay much right now, but they still get paid for it. But it kind of like adds up. Like as you said, it's passive income. It's just there. Like I'm gonna promote it anyway. You're gonna promote it anyway, right? And
Exactly. Yeah.
in my niche, like the photography gear, the desk setup, and all that, like people want to know what I use. So all I have to do is kind of like create a page. This is what I use. These are the links, and people go from there, and
Yeah.
they buy either the same one or similar one using your link. I still get like a kickback from it, so
Yeah.
it works. Um, it's fun how you mentioned like the template and the other one that kind of like made you 35 grand. My wife, my wife's a financial advisor. Like she knows like all how these things work and all that. She's been telling me to kind of like create um, kind of like a step by step process, kind of like an online course of how, as you mentioned, like how I reach my following. But then I kept telling her like I don't have that much following. Like why should I create one? But now that you mention it, right, I might as well look into that again. Like people might buy it, right? Who knows? Like
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm gonna probably like ask you more about that offline. Like
Yeah.
pick your brain, see how that works, where to put it up, and all that. But yeah, good point.
Yeah. So I mean, like what I'll share just kind of in this kind of format is that I used to look at online courses as kind of like a skeezy, scammy kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I took an online course for how to price and sell video production. This is when I was first starting my business. I didn't know what I was doing at all. I was completely
Hmm.
blind, didn't go to school for video, so I took a course. I think it was like $2,000 or $3,000 for the course. It was quite a bit. And from taking that course, I was able to immediately go from charging like a couple $100 for a video to my first deal that I closed was like $1,300, and then after that it was like 2,500, 3,000. From me like taking that one course, I made back my investment within like 2 weeks, and then I was able to build a very profitable business because of what I learned in that. And I looked. I can't take a course on how to build a video business anywhere else. It's not in school. They teach you videography and film. That is a different skill set than how to build a business. So that was my first kind of foray into it. And I was like, ooh, wait a sec. This was actually super valuable. And now today, I would say that I probably spend anywhere from like $3,000 to $5,000 a year on courses, on online courses, because there's nowhere else to learn this stuff, how to be a creative, how to set up email campaigns, how to set up a drip campaign, how to charge for your work. Like they don't teach this stuff in school. So for me to be able to go and spend, whether it's $50 or $100 or $150, and just like get someone else's framework of how they did it, it is like an immense, like immensely valuable thing for me to do. And I buy a lot of these courses now to solve very specific problems in my business. So now I'm totally converted. I'm like, I think that is like the way forward with education, because it's more modular. I remember being in grade school and like learning different things and thinking like, I'm never going to use this. I'm never going to use this information. But now I can look up exactly what I need to know, learn that specific thing in a very short amount of time. And I think that is like, yeah, I think that's the future of education. So the other thing that I'll say on the course front is I never planned on making a course. I didn't like, I gave away everything I knew about SEO in the Facebook groups that I was in for video owners. Everything. I spent hours and hours and hours just constantly giving away everything I knew about SEO. And then people kept asking like, do you have a course where I can learn about this in a sit down format where I can just watch the videos? And I was like, no. And I got asked maybe 50 times. And then I was like, I guess I should make a course. Yeah. And I'm sure it'll be similar with you. Like you'll probably get people asking you, like myself today, how did you do this? How are you doing this? That is when you start to put those pieces together and be like, okay, I think this is valuable for people.
The course that you have, is it like a written, like an online course, or like video
It's a video course.
course? So kind of like you explaining. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
And honestly, the template was the same thing. So I remember actually like going through Instagram and seeing people on Instagram have these pages of like, these are the tools that I use. These are the cameras and stuff that I use. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking like, why are they doing that? But now I understand. I get those questions myself. Like, oh, what camera are you using? Like, oh, what tools do you use? And it becomes a friction point to have to answer it over and over and over again. Yeah. So it actually makes more sense to put it somewhere and then put the affiliate link, and then it's a win-win situation for everyone.
That's true.
Yeah, you don't learn this stuff until it like you kind of are faced with it, and it's like, oh, okay, I understand now. Okay, I rambled on for a lot there. I'm supposed to be interviewing you. Okay, so I want to get into a couple of specific questions that I have for you.
Yeah.
Around some of the skills that are needed to do something like this, around some of the tools that you use.
Okay.
So the first thing I would say, the underlying question is like, what are some of the skills that are required to do what you're doing right now? But first, I want to ask you a more important question. Do you consider yourself a creative person now? And have you always considered yourself to be a creative person? And the reason that I ask is that I see your photos. They're freaking amazing. I see your setup behind you. Like your office looks amazing. It's very beautiful. It's very aesthetic. Were you always kind of like visually creative, or is this like a muscle that you built up over time?
I would say it's probably built over time. I don't even want to call myself a creative right now. I just like
Interesting.
I'm just like a guy who loves taking photos. But growing up, I can say that I have like a good appreciation of a nice design, a nice interior design. Like I always kind of like tend towards something minimal, something clean. I wish my house was like that, but having two kids, that's not gonna happen. I try to, yeah, I think creative. I don't know, man. It's a word that's being thrown a lot these days. Like like how photographer has been thrown around before, especially like Instagram time now. Like everyone can get a camera. Everyone's a photographer now, right? I'm just a guy that loves taking photos. I enjoy it. Am I good at it? Sometimes. Sometimes I still struggle, right? Like I get burnout. These things happen to everyone, but yeah, like I I think you can find creativity in like so many ways. Like be it for videos. Like right now I'm trying to learn more about videos, right? Like photos, I can create like good images, but there's still so much to learn. But I kind of like dabbling into videos now. There's just something different when it comes to videos, like especially after you're done, after exporting it. I don't know. It's just there's this fulfillment that you feel compared to having a photo printed. It's just I don't know. It feels different. So yeah. I hope I answered the question there.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, so I want you to pretend that you just got the ability to go back in time a little bit. Like, let's say you go back in time 3 years and you get to talk to yourself, but you only have a couple minutes, and you say, hey, eventually you're gonna figure out that you can work with the brands that you actually really like. You can do this stuff kind of full time. You can make a good income from it. Here's the skills that you need to develop first, because like we always go through this and we kind of stumble around and figure out what we need to do. Sometimes we spend money on things we don't really need. Sometimes we invest in areas that we don't really need to. What would you say are like the top skills that you're using today that you've had to develop in order to kind of grow to this point and to work with the brands that you are working with right now?
I don't know, man. It's it's hard to answer because again, like what I'm doing right now is pretty much the exact same thing as what I'm doing like 3 years ago. Like nothing much has changed except that I'm putting a little bit more time into it right now. Like 3 years ago, it's still kind of like on the side ish because I'm still focused on the day job, right? So I guess that's one thing. Like focus more. I would say I would tell my younger self to focus more. Like manage my time more into like creating content. Because again, like this all started for me as a hobby. I just got fortunate enough that like I get to work with these brands, right? I guess that's one thing that I hope people that are getting into like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube kind of like understand. Because honestly, like I've met a couple people in Instagram that kind of like started doing this because they wanted what you get out of it,
Yeah.
right? Like they wanted the brand deals, they wanted like the free stuff, they want to get paid, and then if they don't get the likes, the engagement that they were expecting, they kind of like get frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like talking to this guy like a couple of days back on the comment section of his post because he's kind of like ranting about his posts not getting any engagement and all that. That's exactly what I was telling him. Like, just put up something not for IG. Like, put up something for yourself. If you do that, then you're not expecting anything in return. I guess that's what I've been doing. I'm not really focused on the numbers. I'm just enjoying the craft. I'm like the process, like all this on the side are just like, perks. Like
Yeah.
it's nice to have them. And now I'm even like again considering to like doing it full time. But yeah, I guess it just started from me enjoying the process of taking like even if you take a look at my page right now, I'm still more on photos than videos. That's why I haven't blown up. Like Instagram's not
But
giving.
you're learning video pretty quickly. Like I
I'm
see the
trying, yeah.
stuff that you are, and I mean you have I can see you're using the DJI mic there. You're
Hmm.
investing the skills to learn video, just as you did to learn the photography
That's
side.
true, yeah. Because I have to
And
adapt, right?
yeah, and you're also following your curiosity because you said, after you make a video and it's there and it's exported, it's like a different feeling from the
Yeah.
photography. If it felt like crap, then you just wouldn't do it, right? But you are interested in it, and I think there's also an element of you need to develop the skills to speak with the brands as well, like and interact with them and know kind of like a little bit about pricing. You
That's
mentioned
true.
that you have like the group chat with your
Hmm.
friends down in LA, and that is super valuable. By the way, that I think that's a great little nugget of info. So sometimes these kind of questions can be tough to answer because like sometimes it almost doesn't feel like a skill because you're just kind of having fun and doing these
Yeah.
things, but these definitely are skills that you're building up over time and you're sharpening every single day as you go through
Hmm.
it, which is like it's super cool. It's super impressive to watch, by the way, as a outsider, third party perspective.
Thank you. It's fun.
Okay, so I want to keep going. I want to talk to you a little bit about the tools and equipment that you use. So
Okay.
I'm going to break this out into two sections. The first one is hardware. So um, I know you have a ton of camera gear. I know you have a ton of lenses and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I'm curious to kind of know the high level of like, what is the ecosystem that you shoot with? I think it's Sony, but I'll let you answer that. What would you say are like the one or two lenses that you have found the most valuable in your arsenal? And is there any other like key like hardware or equipment that you use to do what you're doing right now?
Yeah. Well, Sony. That's what I've been using right now. Give me what's up? Okay, go. Sorry about that.
That's
So
dad life.
yeah, Sony. I'm fairly new to Sony. Uh, I just switched to Sony May, May or June last year. Prior to that, I've been shooting Fuji for like 6, 7 years, maybe 8 even. So I was like, I've used all Fuji bodies up until the XT4 and X Pro 3, and I just like I switched because people were always kind of like full frame APS-C and all that. I enjoy Fuji, but that was an itch that I had to scratch because I wanted to give it a try. I haven't had full frame, so I went Sony, and man, like I never looked back. Like
Yeah.
I still love Fuji though, but that's kind of like the, the the brand I use right now. I still have Fuji with the X100. Lens for what I do mostly is the 90 mil macro.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because I don't know, it's very versatile. Um, the product shots that I do, which is mostly for Instagram, for the brands that I work with, like the 90 mil has been exceptional. Um, and that's kind of like the fun thing about the niche that I'm in. I don't have to invest in expensive G Master glass. Like I could get away with everything, maybe like with a 90 and a 35. But
Okay.
yeah, 90 mil is something that I use all the time for my photos for IG. But whenever I go out, that 90 mil stays here. It's 90 mil is just like Instagram. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other one that I invested in is the big boy. Let me show you. It's just like right up here.
Yeah. 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 Let me see.
This one,
Oh, I know what that is.
the 35
Yeah.
150.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like outside of the 90, this one is it just does everything that I needed to do. It's
I,
it's amazing.
I want that. I want that lens. Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah,
I haven't got to
Fam-
play with it yet, but I really want to get my hands on
I
that
love
lens.
this. Family portraits that I do, headshots, like this do it. That's why I don't really have to spend so much on glass. I
Yeah.
even have
That's smart.
like cheap. So I heard like there was a photographer that I follow on YouTube. Um, he mentioned something about like like find your butter lens, like your bread and butter, and then
Yeah.
like put your money onto it, and then the others just kind of like get the cheaper ones
Yeah.
because you already have like your main one. For me, this is my main one, and the 90, only because the 90 for like the product shots. Outside of that, all the other lenses that I have, I just bought it for fun. Like this one, I like Samyang lenses. Like these Samyang lenses, they're very cheap. I bought them used on Facebook, but they're nice and small instead of like going like Sony. And I'm pretty sure no one can notice side by side
Yeah.
unless it pixel
That
peak,
I
right?
think that's a key thing. Like so on the bread and butter thing, for the longest time it was 85 mil for the work that I do, then it's now transitioned because what's working on the apps is a little bit different. So the bread and butter for me is definitely the 35 mil G Master, and I have a bunch of other lenses that I've bought, thinking like, well, if the 35 is a GM, then I might as well get like the good ones of all these other ones, and I almost never use the other lenses. Like, I think it is a way better idea to invest in the one lens that you're going to use the most, and then for the other ones, they can be a little bit less. They can be a little bit less quality. They can be like a Sigma, Tamron, etc.
Or maybe getting like a 2.8 instead of like a 1.4, something like that, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
as long as you have like your go-to lens, that photographer, like when he mentioned that, I was still with Fuji, and I was like, that's a hella good advice.
yeah.
So when I started off Sony, like clean slate, but to be honest, the first lens that I bought with Sony is a 90 mil because I know I needed a macro for what I was doing. But yeah, and your other question was outside of the gear. Yeah.
Yeah. So the software. But before we do that, though, I'm curious. One thing. So there's always things that we just kind of do or just like naturally figure out, and we think it's like not a big deal. One thing that I've noticed that you do exceptionally well with your photos is they have good like backdrops, good like they have texture and they have like backgrounds and stuff like that. What do you do for that? Like what is your like what does that look like? Because I see even behind you you have some stuff there.
This is like most flat lays that I shoot. This is like the backdrop because like my camera just goes up there.
Yeah.
This was an old desk of mine.
Oh, okay.
This was a countertop from Home Depot. So this was kind of like a 73-inch long before. When I moved to this house, it was just like, because this is like a small office. Like this entire length is like 77 inches from end to end. And the
Okay.
desk alone was 73 inches, like this one. So when I got here, this was the desk I was using. And I was like, it was just like taking too much space. So I switched back to like the old IKEA like walnut thing that I have now. But the main reason I bought this one is because I always wanted to have that concrete look in my photos.
Yeah.
So when I saw this at Home Depot, bought this, I figured I don't have to kind of like find any backdrop anymore. I can just shoot on my desk right away, right?
That's amazing. That's such a
So
good tip.
yeah, and then yeah, but I had to switch, and since I really like this one, I had my brother-in-law cut it in half, just so I can keep this half and still like use it as a backdrop for my photos. So
That's
it's very heavy, like
yeah.
yeah,
It
but
it looks like it's concrete almost. Yeah.
it stays
Um,
there.
okay. All right, run me through the software they use, the tools like the iOS apps, whether it's like if you use anything like Captions or CapCut, anything like that, the photo editing tool that you use, and the video editor of choice. Like, what are those tools?
Nothing special, man. Like I have the Adobe subscription,
Yep.
so like photos, that's Lightroom and Photoshop right away. I don't really do anything on my phone.
Okay.
So I have like the like CapCut for when I'm like doing like the like Insta 360 footage. Because
Okay.
from the 360 app on my phone, download it, put it up on CapCut. It's faster than doing it on the desktop.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
For video, I'm using the free version of DaVinci.
Yep.
It's funny because like all people now are kind of like, hey, switching to DaVinci, right? Um, I started my YouTube channel. I'm not big on YouTube. I'm like 2,000 subscribers, I think.
Dude, that's pretty good.
It
Yeah,
only
that's
happened
pretty
because
good.
I had a video that blew up, right?
Okay.
So it's not like constant, but there's this one video that blew up, and it kind of like started from there. But I think this was back in 2020, 2021 when I started this channel. So I was like, okay, I want to like start a YouTube channel. And then I decided, oh wait, how am I going to edit a video? Like, I don't know how to edit a video. I don't even know how to shoot like 24 frames and all that. And then I was looking at like video editing softwares. At that time, Final Cut was kind of like popular because Apple um, Premiere Pro. I was looking into that too because I already had a subscription. But then I saw DaVinci Resolve, which was free. And my excuse at that time was I didn't want to pay for something like a video editing software if I'm not sure if I'm going to be using it, like, if I don't find it as an investment. At that time, like, it was just, I just wanted to give this a try. So,
Yeah.
went with DaVinci, the free version, edited it, uploaded on YouTube, and then it's it's just there right now. It's still DaVinci. I'm actually even thinking of like upgrading to the studio version now, like the paid version, because it has just been nice to me. And yeah, but it's free, so might as well like keep using it. And I see no problems with it right now. And as you've seen, as you've heard, people are like switching into it, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I recently switched to DaVinci, and I think it's great. I did upgrade to the studio version. I don't even remember why, because the free version was so good that
Yeah.
like I couldn't believe that it was free. Like, it's so good. And then
Exactly.
I just upgraded recently. I think to use a certain plugin, but it's absolutely like, yeah, worth the value of
What were you
whatever
using before?
Final Cut.
Final
Yeah,
Cut. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. DaVinci. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's it. I don't use any other software. Adobe for photos and DaVinci for videos. Like
Cool.
I want to keep things simple.
Yeah, no, I think that's the way to do it. Okay, I want to ask you another question. This one might be a little bit more difficult. It's so in the I'm asking in the terms of like all the things that you've done to grow your Instagram to this point and to get the like kind of brand deals that you have right now. Is there anything that you tried that didn't work as well for you, maybe as it did for someone else? Is there anything that you tried where like it was like, you know what, that didn't really have much impact or that much effect, as much as like the other things that you did that worked? Is there anything that comes to mind there?
That's one. The um the media kit.
Oh, the
Like
media kit. Oh,
yeah,
interesting. Okay.
because what happened was like obviously um bigger creators were saying like have a media kit so that when you try to work with brands, ask for your rates, you just send them your media kit, and then
Right.
you kind of like there's kind of like a breakdown of like packages of some sort. Like let's say package one, I give you this, this, and that for this much. Package two, I'll give you a little bit more for a little bit more price, right? So they had that, so I was like, okay, let me create one, and then I had brands, maybe 4 or 5 brands that I was in talks, and then we went on to that part. Like if I have a media kit, I was like, okay, let me send it to you. So I sent it to them, but it just didn't fit. Like either the package that I'm offering or the price. And then what worked for me is kind of like asking them what they need and what their budget is. So now
Hmm.
when I talk to them, because like like unless obviously if someone is kind of like have a media kit and keeps updating it every time, right, and keeps sending mine, like I don't know anyone that does that. Like maybe once a month you update your media kit, right? But mine probably, I don't know, it didn't work. So in my case, when I talk to brands, I ask them like, what sort of content do you need from me? That they tell me. Like if they say like, give me 5 photos, 2 reels, and then okay, I can do that. Do you have any budget for this? So I can kind of like work with their budget. right? And that way, I'm not dictating them what my price is. But sometimes, like bigger brands, they're just kind of like, they just ball out. They're just gonna straight like ask you what's your rate, and then you'll know. Like if you
Yeah.
deal with those brands, like you'll know when you wanna like put the price up, and that kind of helps too, cause like I'm not restricted with that media kit, right? So I'm more flexible than being restricted to that like sort of media kit. So that's one thing that didn't work for me that I heard worked well like for others. That's why I tried it, but yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't really work out for me.
That's really interesting because I have heard a lot of people like like, oh, you got to have a media kit, got to have that put
Hmm.
together. And the thing that it reminds me of is in video production, there's kind of like two trains of thoughts on pricing. So one of them is like, oh, you have your set pricing that you put on your website and it's open and transparent and anyone can see it. The other train of thought is you tailor the project to the client, and
Hmm.
every project is unique and therefore has unique pricing, and this is called value-based pricing. So I wouldn't say either one is correct. It's more like what works for you. So in my video business, I did try kind of set prices at the beginning, and I found out very quickly two projects are very, very different. So if I have one set price, but one project requires 100 hours of work and the other one requires 20 hours, well, then that doesn't really work for me. That doesn't work
Yeah.
for the business that I was building. So instead, I moved to value-based pricing, which is they a brand would come to me. I would ask them like, what do you need? You know, where is this going? What are the requirements? And then I would build something for them. I would build a proposal, a package for them. In contrast, for the photography business, I noticed that there was a lot of photographers who weren't open about their pricing. And that was something where it was a little bit more templated, where we do 1 hour, you get X amount of deliverables. It's the same thing each time. So that one I did do kind of the media kit style, where it's like, here's the prices, here's the package, you pick what works best for you. And that actually worked better in that business. But it depends on like it depends on the business, depends on the model, depends on all these other factors. So I'm glad to hear you say that like that the media kit didn't work for you, but this is what worked for you, which is like
Like
value
a
based
value
pricing. It
based thing,
sounds
yeah.
like. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And I think that's good because a lot of people just talk about the one way to do things, like the media kit. And I know there's not just one way to do things. Like,
Hmm.
so that's good to have that different perspective on it. That's super
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah. I had to find it like hard way. Well, not a hard way, but more into like I just kind of like stumbled onto it too, like that way. This was like a
Yeah.
conversation I was having with a client, and then went into that, and it worked out. And then I had another client, another brand come in, and then I remember that conversation that I had, tried to use that, it worked again. So I was like, huh, this is it.
Great.
Stick
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, cool. So I do have another question here around the risks and pitfalls. So this is basically like if you could kind of tell someone what the inherent risks are of, you know, kind of going into this full-time creator thing. But I think we already kind of talked about it, like the up and down income can be a little variable and that can be a little difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that comes to mind around like potential pitfalls of this kind of career path? Any other risks that you've identified along the way?
Not for me though. I think again, it's more into like expectations, right? Uh, Again, like I got into this space by just doing something that I like, right?
Yeah.
Wherein people on the outside, they might be looking at us and saying, "Hey, I want to do that," but then now their drive is more to do like what we're doing, but not kind of like enjoy the process of it. So they're gonna be frustrated, like they're gonna be upset. So that's one thing that they should be ready for, and that's something that's not a way to kind of like approach this platform, this niche, right? So it's not for everyone. Like it looks fun. Like I watch Peter McKinnon, those big guys. Like you wanna be like them, right? But then I'm pretty sure they had like some pretty bumpy rides too at the start. So yeah, I think that's one thing. Like other than that, yeah, we kind of like nailed it. Like inconsistent income, it may be better, may not be better. You
Yeah.
need to have like if you're coming off like a full time or like a regular 9 to 5 going into like full time creative, I think you should have like a buffer, like at least a couple of months buffer to kind of
For
like
sure.
stay afloat, I guess. If you're, I mean, if you're single, that's easier, right? I have my wife, so it kind of like makes it easy for me too. Like she supports me financially, everything, emotionally. So that's one good thing.
Okay. Um, and yeah, I mean, what you mentioned about like Peter McKinnon and those kind of guys. The thing is, I think what you were saying about, do something that you enjoy, that applies to them. Like they were obviously having fun with it. They were obviously like not, if you listen to interviews of those guys, like they never imagined to be at the level that they're at. That was never the goal. That was never the intention, was to have 1 million followers. They were
Hmm.
just kind of doing something that they enjoyed. I think there was a video where Peter said like the first time he ever got AdSense revenue, it was like something like $3 or 30 cents, and he was like, that was enough of a sign for me to like think that I could do this. And otherwise, he was just having fun with it. And I think that's very key. I mean, it is also a huge competitive advantage if you enjoy the game. If you enjoy what you do, it's very hard to compete with someone like that because they're going to show up to the field and play regardless if
Yeah.
there's a paycheck behind it. So I totally agree with you there. Okay, the last thing that I just want to kind of quickly touch on is you mentioned Peter McKinnon. There's a couple other creators that you follow as well. The last one is around resources. So, is there any like creators or channels or books or anything that you've kind of read that is or watched that had a really big impact on you that that kind of set you on this kind of path and pushed you in this direction? Anything that anyone else could read or watch?
Nah. No, nothing, man. Like again, I mean, there's no one thing that kind of like pushed me to get into where I'm at right now. I just was doing what I was doing. I just like taking photos, and it got me here. Um, it's not from a book, not from a movie. It's just like the process of doing the thing. Although there are photographers that I kind of like follow, that kind of like inspires me to do like what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, it's mostly on Instagram. There's one on on YouTube, Faisal Westcott.
Okay, okay.
This guy is more like into street photography. Like obviously, you don't see me like doing that, but it kind of like inspires me. Watching him inspires me to do kind of like the same thing. Makes me want to like make content too. Um, there's this guy on Instagram. Not a lot of people know him, but I think it's like probably one of my favorite creators. Uh, his name is on IG is No Way Jose Photography.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. Like if you look him up, uh, I would say 2021 from 2020 to 2022, like the stuff that he's doing on that page, like it's just amazing. He even had like some sort of challenges. Um, he had like a 52 week challenge, which is like for a year, and like different like every week like you have like a different theme. He did that. I tried actually doing that too, like following him, kind of like hashtagging the thing, but he was just like so consistent, and it inspires me to do kind of like the same. And yeah, those people inspires me to kind of like create, but
Yeah.
not in a way to kind of like, I don't know, we're all on like different niches, but the way they do things, it's just inspiring.
Yeah, I think that's great. Like a lot of people will say, like, if you want to really learn how someone got to where they are, like to
Hmm.
look at that person's mentors, look at how they learned and like what they, who they looked up to for inspiration and stuff like that. So that's actually quite helpful. Um, yeah, that's all the questions that I had for you. Like,
Yeah.
there's a process question, but you've already answered most of it, like of
Hmm.
how you started and how you're kind of evolving that. I might follow up with you at one point to
Sure.
inquire about how you reach out to brands today. Um, if you can kind of give like a short answer on that, like if there's like kind of a process that you use to reach out to brands, I'd love to hear it. But I just don't want to keep you too long today.
I don't have a process, to be honest. It's more like I just get straight to the point. Um, Personally, when I reach out to brands, I don't expect to get paid. Um, right now, I think for the last week, I actually reached out to two brands. Personally reached out because I wanted some of their stuff. They both said yes, which is dope. But
Okay, when you say reached out, this is one of those things where it's like it probably seems so obvious to you, but break down like what does that mean? Do you reach out via Instagram? Do you reach out via
both,
email? How do you
both,
phrase that?
actually both.
Both. Okay.
So at first, I find it like unprofessional to kind of like reach out on IG via DMs. So I always send an email first, if I can find their email.
Okay.
If not, then I go on IG, send them a DM. What I just do is I just like tell them, like introduce myself and tell them how I'm a big fan of what they're doing, their product, and all that, and ask directly if I could try this particular thing, this certain product, if I could get my hands on it, and in return, like give them something, be it
Okay.
photos, reels, like YouTube. That's it, straight up. That's all I
All
do.
right.
If I get
I okay.
rejected, I get rejected. If not, like this one, what I'm using right now, you see this, my old dock. I'm
Oh
selling
yeah,
this
yeah,
now.
yeah.
I'm selling this because I reached out to CalDigit and I was like, "Can I get a hold of your TS4? And in return, this is what I'm gonna do." And they're like, "Sure." No, I have the TS4.
Oh,
So
dude, that's so cool.
yeah,
Okay, okay. I'm gonna ask you because I know whenever I post this that this question is going to come up. I know because I've done kind of stuff like this before. I I want to, if you're okay with this, if you can pick a brand that you've reached out to in the last couple weeks, you don't have to say who it is if you don't want to, but if you can read me what that email says, and because that part to you seems like, oh, I just reach out and I introduce myself and I ask,
sure.
but the specific wording is what people are very interested in. And that's like a part of the secret sauce. Like I've done this before where like cause I when I was running the video production company,
Hmm.
I used to do video reach outs. I would record a video of me reaching out, introducing myself and say, hey, like I'm a fan of your brand. I would do this, I have this in mind. And it was just so kind of like easy to me. It just seemed so intuitive. But the number one question that got asked was like, well, what do you say? How do you say it? How do you phrase it?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to ask you because I know it'll come up.
Okay. I'm gonna show you, but again, it doesn't work for everyone, right? Like,
Totally, totally. Yeah.
like it may be different with other brands, but since I already mentioned the brand CalDigit, I'm just like looking it up. So basically, what happened with CalDigit is I DM'd them because I cannot find their email, and then the guy replied. He told me to email like this person, which I did. But like if they say that, it's already kind of like ago, right?
Okay. So what was that
So,
first message to them? What does that say?
okay. Just so you know that we're not lying here. Is it in focus? Okay, that's
Yeah,
Cal
yeah,
Digger.
yeah.
That's me. That's the email.
Okay.
That's the DM I sent. That's the reply telling me to email. And then I told them, sure, I'll email. Then that's it. So basically, I just greeted them. Hi there. Hope all is well. I've been a fan of your product for quite some time now. I'm reaching out today to ask if you'd be interested working with me and would love to give your TS4 doc a try. That's what I said. In return, I can showcase it on my IG page and include it on a YouTube video that I'm working on. Because it was just true. Because I'm working on a video right now, and I told them also that I cannot promise anything if the video will do good, but I'm still gonna do the video anyway, and hoping you would consider. All the best, Lloyd. That's that's just kind of like
That's
how I word everything.
yeah.
So I greet them, tell them what I want, tell them what I can do for them, and then wish them the best. That's it. If they say
So
yes or no, but yeah,
so that I can tell it seems so like it just seems so like basic to you. It's like, I just reach out and do that. But you like the way you structure that is very smart, and I can definitely see why it works. You reach out, you lead with value. You say, hey, like I'm a big fan of what you are doing. I'm curious if you would want to work with me on this thing. You tell them, kind of give them specifics of where it would go and what that would look like. Then you expectation set and say, I can't make any promises that this would like go viral or anything. And then you end it by saying, I hope this sounds good.
yeah,
Otherwise, like all the best. Like, so you're not setting it like an adversarial tone. You're not like kind of demanding. You're just putting it out there and saying, hey, I'm a fan. This is what, we could work together. Let me know. Otherwise, I'm still going to be a fan. Like you're doing it in such a good way. Like that is exactly the way that I would do it. And I know it's a good thing because it seems so basic to you, but it's the basic stuff like that that people really want to know. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't need to
okay,
be this massive email. It's just like a personal thing that you send. And for some people, it might be different. They might send something else. They might do
yeah,
it differently. But
you
that
got it.
kind of, yeah, that is your system. And that's what I'm
Yeah,
curious about.
I think that you got to word like being personal about it. Like I think that's what works for me. Like this is just an example of me reaching out to a brand I haven't worked with before. This is the first time I'm working with them, and I just try to be personal. Same with the media kit. Like having a media kit, kind of like you know, but with me, value based works well because we're kind of like it's personal. We're getting to know each other. Like what do you want me to do? What's your budget? So yeah, it's not always like business like. Maybe for others it works, right? But we're all different. If anyone's listening, they can try it, right? Like just be more personal about the stuff that they're doing. People like that.
Yeah. I'm so glad I asked you about this. Yeah. This is, that's super valuable. Yeah. That's super
Yeah, but then
valuable.
again, if I reach out to brands, I don't expect anything. I get rejected, that's cool. I don't ask them to pay me. I don't know how to say that. But if they kind of like ask me what my rate is, then I'll tell them. But if I'm the one reaching out, I don't expect to get paid. So, yeah.
Yeah. When I reach out to you in 6 months to 1 year, I know you will have figured out a good personalized way to
Hmm.
introduce yourself, offer your services, and like
I
do
hope so.
like
Yeah,
payment. I know it'll. I know it feels a little weird, but I guarantee you. We can chat about this afterwards. But yeah, there's definitely ways to do that.
for sure.
Cool, man. Well, really quickly before we sign off, what is the price on a TS4? Because I've had one in my Amazon.
The TS4?
Yeah, let me just
I
look it
don't
up.
know, man. Like, I think it's like 450-ish on Amazon.
Yeah,
Because that's
I'm
like,
just looking right now. They don't even have it in stock. Yeah, it was like $400. That I was looking at buying one myself. So
yeah.
it just goes to show, like, even though you're not getting paid for this specific integration for this specific thing,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you can do that is awesome.
Yeah,
And it is a win-win for you. It's a win because you get the product, and it's a win for the company because they get the exposure of you showing the product in a good light, et cetera. And that is the thing I think a lot of people need to understand is that when you do stuff like this, it's not a one-sided equation. It's not like, how do I get all the views? How do I get all the likes? How do I get all the followers? How do I get the money for this? It's more about like, how can I do something that is equally as valuable for the brand that I'm working with? How can I provide value for them? Because then if it's a win-win scenario, then you're going to have that as a repeat client that you can work with. They're going to want to work with you in the future. So, yeah, I can tell that you already like kind of instinctively know this stuff, but some people don't. And
yeah.
it's good to call attention to it.
I hope people will learn like and it's something from this conversation that we had. But it's fun.
Yeah.
Like again, as you said, win-win. I got something that I need personally without spending anything. Like some people, like the bigger people, the bigger creators might not approve it because they're like, no, you're still gonna have that. I still have to do something for them. That they still have to pay. But in my case, like, I don't look at it that way. Like, because I reach out. I don't want to get. I like getting paid, but I just don't want to be that greedy. Like if I'm asking someone for something, I'm not asking for their money too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think there's a key point there of like, if they came back and said no, or if they just ignored you, you're not going to like use your, what's it called? Like your status or your followers and be like, oh, you
yeah,
don't know who I am. Like, and I think that's where it gets a little tricky. Like sometimes people get kind of iffy if an influencer or someone reaches out and they're like, hey, like, do you want to do
rejected.
this thing? But if you approach it the way that you're approaching it, if they say no, you're probably gonna buy it anyways because you genuinely want it and need it, and you will probably still support them as a brand regardless. You're just trying to see if there's a synergy there, and I think that's the right way to do it. Coming in with low expectations, kind of being just clear in the beginning of what you have in mind. I think that's a good way for people to approach that. So thank you for
That's
sharing
true.
that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I greatly appreciate you coming on here and spending your time with me tonight. I am going to condense this into a couple actionable points into a framework and put that live. Otherwise, let's keep in touch. I'm super
Absolutely, man.
stoked for
Like
you
you.
to make the transition to full time. And yeah, man, it was great chatting with you.
Ah, that's amazing time, man. I wish I was able to answer some of your questions. I think I was like rambling a lot too, but
No, dude, you did great. You did great. Yeah,
it-
it's
but
awesome.
yeah, we'll catch up. I mean, you're pretty much my neighbor right now, so we're just like what, like 10 blocks away.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Let's schedule a time to go shoot.
sounds good. And happy birthday again, advance happy birthday, right?
Yeah,
Saturday.
yeah. Thanks, dude. I
Are we still
appreciate that.
recording?
We are, but it's okay. This is the human element of two people connecting and stuff like that. So it's good. Yeah, sweet,
Anytime, man. Just reach out. Like we can do this
cool.
anytime. Yeah.